Meanwhile, President Trump continues to dismiss scientific evidence showing climate change is behind extreme weather. On Monday, he traveled to California as wildfires ravaged the state. While he was there, he questioned climate change and blamed the fires on poor forest management. Here's an exchange he had with California National Resources Secretary Wade Crowfoot.
We want to work with you to really recognize the changing climate and what it means to our forests, and actually work together with that science. That science is going to be key, because if we ignore that science and sort of put our head in the sand and think it's all about vegetation management, we're not going to succeed together protecting Californians.
Okay, it'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
Well, I don't think science knows, actually.
Joe Biden has responded to those claims, calling the president a, quote, climate arsonist who is endangering Americans. Joe Biden is not currently scheduled to visit the West Coast. For the latest on the presidential race, I want to bring in Natasha Korecki. She's a national correspondent for Politico. Welcome, Natasha. Thank you for joining us. So could the president's comments on climate change hurt him in some of these key states that are frequently impacted by the effects of climate change?
Well, I most certainly think it can hurt him. I mean, I think some of the words we heard him saying, in particular when he said, it'll get cooler, just watch, it's very reminiscent of what we heard the president say at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, which was, it'll go away. Just watch, it'll go away. You won't even know it's here. And, 200,000 lives later, lost lives later, we're seeing how those words did not ring true at all. Obviously, these wildfires are, having an enormous impact on the West Coast. Hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced, and some of our own coverage from our Politico California has indicated that people were really angry with Trump for not having come and visit, not paying attention to what was happening out there. They had been burning for several weeks before he actually landed there. And when he did land there, he was denying climate change.
Right. And so then what about Joe Biden, though? Could it also hurt him in California that he's not visiting the state during these historic fires?
I think it's a little different for Biden. Certainly, it doesn't look good that he has not visited the state, or that he didn't really, in a big way, address it. He did finally yesterday. And he has here and there, but not in the same kind of way. We saw him go up to the lectern. You see the background behind him there. This was definitely to address climate change and solely that. He didn't even take questions yesterday. So I think that's not good. That's not good for Biden. On the other hand, he's not president, and he is also on the side of science. You have him coming out saying that Trump is a climate arsonist. You have him having he's proposed a pretty sweeping climate change to address climate in the primary and now. He and Trump couldn't be more different on this matter when it comes to, following science and following facts.
So we want to move now to your reporting, which talks about the extraordinary lengths the Biden campaign goes to keep him safe from the coronavirus. Can you describe this for us?
Certainly. If you read that story, the Biden team is meticulous, they're comprehensive, they're expansive when it comes to how they handle COVID. There is nothing spared when it comes to protecting the former vice president, and they follow all the rules when they visit other states. Also, a very big contrast to Donald Trump, who we've seen recently this week land in different states and just flout the laws of those states. What we saw with Biden, he's always wearing a mask. We were told that he rarely allows people into his house. There's very few staffers who are allowed in there. When they are there, everyone's wearing a mask, including him. And it gets to the point where even if somebody's taking a sip of water, they turn their head away so that they don't have to take a chance with any droplets going into the air. And people are very careful when they go to events, for instance, and they're setting up ahead of events. They have tape measures, they draw circles. Everything is spaced out perfectly, and it is following the rules as well as can be. So it's completely different when you compare Biden and Trump. It's like two different worlds.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, Natasha. How do these actions compare with Trump's campaign? What are they doing when it comes to traveling and protecting him from COVID? You know, and could the lack of travel, though, that we've seen from Biden as a result of some of this hurt him?
Okay, so two different questions. One, I'll start with the Trump question, which is yes, it's he does have some protocols. I understand that he doesn't have. He doesn't allow anyone else to use the same lectern as he does. You know, obviously, he's being tested several times a week. You saw what happened at the RNC and the audience there. People, by and large, were not wearing masks. They exceeded a lot of the capacity limits. And that's what we're seeing. We saw in North Carolina this week. We saw, or last week, we saw in Nevada, there was an indoor rally. He's completely out of compliance with these states and completely thumbing his nose at the state laws, but also his own public health recommendations. So that's one thing. So putting that aside, Biden, I think there is going to be some backlash if he does not adjust quickly. So in Wisconsin, for instance, which I cover very closely, there is some, angst on the floor on the ground among Democrats who just feel that he should have really come and done that speech for the Democratic National Convention. He should have come to Milwaukee and just done the speech there, do it as safely as possible. And they want to see more of him. I mean, they still are miffed about 2016 and the fact that Hillary Clinton did not ever go to Wisconsin during the general election. They want to see more of Biden there. He has since visited, so has Kamala Harris. It's not enough. I also think that Biden just needs to keep doing more and more of these trips. We're hearing more and more from the electorate that they want to see that he's healthy, that he's able to do this, that he can keep up with it. He's battling some of these narratives that Trump is pushing out, including that, low energy Joe and so forth. So he needs to counter that. And Trump and Pence are way ahead of him, partially because they've broken the rules. But nonetheless, they are where they are.
Well, Natasha Korecki, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.